Tomoya Umasaki was peacefully asleep in his classroom when, without warning, he suddenly woke up with a sharp jolt. The classroom he knew had completely disappeared, and in its place stood a strange, unfamiliar setting filled with unknown people. His classmate, Yu Kuno, spoke up first, giving voice to everyone's confusion as he asked who these people were. The students looked at each other in shock, unable to understand how they had been in their own world just moments ago and were now somewhere else entirely. Suddenly, a priest struck his staff against the ground, the loud sound cutting through the noise and forcing everyone into silence. Rihanna von Flarelode, the second princess of the Flarelode kingdom, stepped forward and apologized sincerely for putting them through such a frightening situation. She then began to explain what had happened. According to her, they had been brought to a different world called Alfis. She described the eastern continent, Mirald, where humans lived and where the Flarelode kingdom stood strong, along with the nearby central continent, Franrid. From Franrid, powerful and terrifying demons would launch attacks on Mirald again and again. Even though many nations sent their knights to fight back, Rihanna admitted that they were slowly losing the battle. To avoid complete destruction, the kingdom had performed a hero summoning, calling for legendary heroes from another world to save them. Yu Kuno tried to make sense of everything, saying that even though the story sounded unbelievable, the reality in front of them made it hard to deny. Tomoya, however, chose to stay quiet. In his mind, he decided that cooperating for now was the smartest choice. If the princess was telling the truth, then they were being treated as honored guests. But if she was lying, then acting against her too soon could put them in danger. No matter what the truth was, Tomoya decided to stay alert, watch carefully, and prepare himself for whatever might come next. Fred von Flarelode, the king of the Flarelode kingdom, stepped forward and took control of the situation. With a firm voice, he declared that he would personally guide their future. He explained that the students would go through intense training to prepare for their main mission, which was to defeat the Demon King. Hearing this, Yu Kuno moved ahead and asked an important question. He wanted to know if they really had the strength to accomplish such a task, and more importantly, if there was any way for them to return to their original world. The king replied that there was indeed a method to go back, but it was a secret known only to the Demon King. If they wished to return home, they would first have to defeat him and force that knowledge out of him. Tomoya quietly found this explanation strange. He couldn't understand how the king could be so sure about what the Demon King knew, when the kingdom itself had no way of sending them back. Something about it didn't sit right with him. Then, as the king signaled to an attendant holding 5 special cards, he reassured the group that they all had hidden potential within them. He explained that these were status cards, blessed by the chief god El Tora, which could turn a person's abilities into clear numbers and rankings. Using his appraisal skill, the king checked their stats, and the results left him visibly shocked. He carefully wrote down Yu Kuno's details and showed them to everyone. Kuno was labeled as a hero, and every one of his stats, attack, defense, agility, and magic, stood at an incredible 300. On top of that, he had powerful skills like language understanding, advanced mastery of all magic and sword fighting at level 4, and even a special heroic transformation. The king explained that a normal person at level 1 usually only had a value of around 10 in each category, making Kuno an extremely rare genius, someone seen only once in 1,000 years. As the king continued checking the other students, his excitement only grew, as each of them showed impressive abilities and strong potential. But when the king checked Tomoya's status, his excitement instantly disappeared. His expression turned to shock as he saw that every single stat on Tomoya's card was 0. Without hiding his disappointment, he handed the card over and admitted that he had never expected someone to turn out this useless. Tomoya looked down at the card in silence, noticing that he had received no blessings at all. Around him, the royal court grew uneasy, quietly arguing about whether someone like him could even take part in the war. The king quickly called for an emergency meeting to decide what should be done with Tomoya, asking the students to wait while they discussed it. Rihanna stepped forward and apologized for what had happened, clearly feeling bad for him. Tomoya, however, calmly reassured her with a few simple words. Deep inside, his mind was focused on something else. His card didn't just show 0, it showed 00. That small detail caught his attention, making him wonder if there was a deeper meaning behind it, or if it was somehow different from simply having no abilities at all. When the king returned, he addressed Tomoya directly. Since Tomoya had no power for battle, he would not be sent to fight. Instead, he would be relocated to a nearby town, where he would live safely as a guest until the other heroes defeated the Demon King. Tomoya asked one important question: whether his safety would truly be guaranteed. When the king confirmed it, a wave of relief washed over him. To Tomoya, this outcome was actually perfect. He didn't feel angry about being powerless or being summoned to this world. In fact, his curiosity about this new place was much stronger than any disappointment. He accepted the decision without hesitation, seeing himself as nothing more than a normal person who had been accidentally dragged into a hero's story. Some time later, outside the castle, a knight checked on him and confirmed that he had rested well. Soon after, they began their journey south toward the town of Lugard. The knight warned him about dangerous monsters that roamed the roads, and at that moment, Tomoya realized that this man was not just a guide, but also his personal guard assigned to protect him. As they traveled through the open countryside, the beautiful views around them slowly made everything feel real to Tomoya. The wide fields, clear skies, and peaceful surroundings made it clear he was no longer in his old world. This was truly a different place. Their calm journey suddenly stopped when the knight warned him about a monster nearby. Staying inside the carriage, Tomoya watched as the guards stepped forward to face a wolf. One of the guards, who didn't even carry a weapon, created an ice attack out of thin air, forming both an ice projectile and a sword before quickly taking the creature down. He shouted to the others to keep pushing forward without fear. Seeing magic used so naturally in battle left Tomoya in awe. It made him realize that what he had just witnessed was probably just the beginning, and that even stronger fighters must exist in this world. Even though he had already accepted that he had no abilities, a small part of him still wished he could experience that kind of power and explore this new world freely on his own. Eventually, they reached the town of Lugard and stopped in front of a large, elegant mansion. There, a noble girl greeted him with a warm smile and introduced herself as Cynthia von Ernirch. She told him that she already knew about his situation and seemed genuinely happy to meet him. Without wasting time, she invited him inside, mentioning that her father was waiting for him. Inside the mansion, Tomoya met Rissel von Ernirch, the head of the household, who welcomed him kindly. Rissel explained that he had already received news about Tomoya. He understood that Tomoya was a summoned hero from another world, but one who didn't have the power to fight. Even so, Rissel assured him that, by the king's order, he would be treated with full respect as an honored guest until a way to send him home was discovered. He also mentioned that having absolutely no power was extremely rare, but this fact would remain a secret within the family, as the king had strictly forbidden anyone from spreading such information. Tomoya bowed politely to thank him, but Rissel brushed it off and suggested they focus on more important matters. Without delay, he began by asking Tomoya what he already knew about this world, wanting to understand his level of knowledge before moving forward. Tomoya shared what little he understood so far. He explained that they were in the Flare Kingdom, located on the eastern continent of Mireld, which was currently under attack by the demon tribe coming from the central continent. Wanting to give a clearer and more complete explanation, Rissel asked Cynthia to bring a map. Once it was spread out in front of them, he began describing the world in detail. Rissel pointed to different regions as he spoke. He explained that Fruna was the central land ruled by demons, while Mireld in the east was where humans lived. To the north was Arsna, home of the demihumans, and to the west lay Dragna, the territory of the Dragon King. He also mentioned another Fruna in the south, which was inhabited by beastmen. Even though each continent was mainly ruled by a specific race, he added that demihumans and beastmen could also be found living in Mireld. Though he doubted Tomoya would ever travel that far, he shifted the focus back to Lugard, the town where they currently were. Cynthia then offered to guide Tomoya around town, explaining that they needed to buy some basic things for his stay at the mansion. As they talked, Tomoya suddenly seemed a bit surprised, which made Cynthia worry that she might have said something rude. But Tomoya simply laughed and rubbed the back of his head, saying that he was just caught off guard because she had used his first name so casually. This led to a small but interesting discussion about naming styles. Tomoya explained that in his world, people usually say their family name first. Cynthia quickly realized that she had unknowingly called him by his personal name the very first time they met, and she became visibly embarrassed. Noticing this, Tomoya immediately reassured her, saying he actually preferred being called Tomoya. He added that using her family name, Ernirch, might get confusing since more than one person in the house shared it. Then, with a polite smile, he asked if he could call her Cynthia as well. Cynthia quickly regained her composure and agreed, even suggesting that they drop the formal way of speaking and stop using honorifics altogether. As they shook hands to seal this new, more casual friendship, Rissel let out a small cough to get their attention. With a gentle smile, he commented that he was happy to see his daughter finally making a friend her own age. After that, Cynthia guided Tomoya to the busy shopping area in Lugard's East District. As they walked, she pointed out several men carrying swords and small pouches at their waists. She explained that these people were adventurers. According to her, Lugard was famous as a gathering place for adventurers, and there was even a guild located in the South District. Hearing this, Tomoya quietly decided that he would visit the guild someday if he got the chance. Cynthia then helped him choose some new clothes and paid for them. As he changed, she smiled and said the outfit suited him very well. Tomoya thanked her sincerely and promised that he would repay her kindness one day. Even though Cynthia told him not to worry about it, he still felt uncomfortable relying on others. He began to wonder if someone like him, with no abilities, could find a way to earn money in this world. Curious, he asked Cynthia if she had any kind of blessing. She told him that she could use support-type magic, but admitted that she wasn't strong enough for combat. Their calm shouting was suddenly broken by a wave of fear spreading through the streets. A man came running, shouting that monsters had broken through the east gate and were heading their way. Cynthia quickly recognized them as gray wolves, dangerous C-rank monsters that they had no chance of defeating. Without wasting time, she told Tomoya to run and pulled him toward a nearby alley. He didn't hesitate and followed her immediately. But just as they were escaping, Cynthia noticed a small child who had fallen right in the path of one of the wolves. Without even thinking, she turned around and rushed back, placing herself between the child and the approaching monster. Tomoya froze in shock. Just moments ago, she had admitted that she couldn't fight. Yet now she was risking her life without hesitation. He couldn't understand her actions. Knowing he had no power to help, all he could do was shout desperately, begging her to stop. As the wolf leaped toward them, Tomoya didn't have time to think. His body reacted on its own, driven by a strong urge to protect them. He stepped forward, putting himself in front, and threw a punch at the attacking beast. The moment his fist connected, something unbelievable happened. The wolf was instantly blown apart. Right after that, a strange notification appeared in front of his eyes, as if it were part of a system only he could see. It announced that his appraisal skill had reached level infinity and revealed his true status. Instead of zeros, everything about him, his role, his attack, defense, speed, magic power, and every skill was listed as infinity. Tomoya stood frozen, unable to process what he was seeing. The numbers the king had shown earlier were completely wrong. When Cynthia slowly opened her eyes, she looked around in confusion and asked what had happened to the wolf. Tomoya calmly told her that he had taken care of it and pointed toward what remained of the creature, gently telling her not to look too closely. Cynthia couldn't believe it. There was no way someone could defeat a C-rank gray wolf so easily, especially someone who was supposed to have no power. She demanded an explanation. Tomoya knelt down and dipped his hand into the wolf's blood, then drew a symbol on the ground the shape of infinity. He asked if she recognized it, but Cynthia shook her head, saying she had never seen anything like it before. At that moment, Tomoya realized something important. The idea of infinity didn't exist in this world. The king must have mistaken the sideways figure for a 00 when reading his status card. Thinking back, Tomoya noticed something else. He hadn't felt any special power before that moment. It only appeared when he truly needed it, when he desperately wanted the strength to protect Cynthia. That exact amount of power had suddenly awakened within him. As he tried to understand this strange ability, Cynthia suddenly warned him that more monsters were getting closer, pulling him back to reality. Now feeling sure of himself, Tomoya told Cynthia to step back and trust him to handle everything. He moved forward without hesitation, striking quickly and accurately as he took down the gray wolves one after another. Each movement was clean and controlled, and before long, the monsters were falling with ease. Cynthia could only watch in amazement as he eliminated the dangers so effortlessly. While Tomoya made sure the area was safe, his eyes caught sight of a woman standing at a distance. Looking around, he realized that more than 20 wolves had already been defeated, completely stopping the attack. People nearby began whispering excitedly, recognizing the woman as the Red Knight, a famous B-rank adventurer. They admired both her beauty and her incredible strength. Tomoya noticed her striking red hair and the light armor she wore, thinking that her title suited her perfectly. When she gave him a small smile before walking away, he couldn't help but feel his face heat up. Not far from there, the little girl he had saved was reunited with her father. Before leaving, she waved at Tomoya with a bright, thankful smile, which left a quiet warmth in his heart. Later, back at the Ernirch mansion, Rissel listened carefully as Tomoya explained everything that had happened. After hearing the full story, he informed Tomoya that one of the king's close aides would be visiting that evening, and he planned to report the incident to him. It became clear that the king had completely misunderstood Tomoya's status card, leading to the earlier mistake. Tomoya thanked Rissel for speaking to the royal court on his behalf, but Rissel shook his head and said the thanks should go the other way. After all, Tomoya had saved his daughter's life. With a lighthearted tone, he added that Cynthia had a habit of jumping into danger without thinking, which made her blush and protest in embarrassment. Cynthia admitted that what she did was reckless, but her thoughts quickly returned to Tomoya's mysterious power. She suggested that if his status was truly infinity, then he might have enough strength to defeat the Demon King without much trouble. Rissel agreed, pointing out that Tomoya seemed to have no limits at all when it came to his abilities. Tomoya let out a small laugh to himself. Deep down, he knew his situation was shocking even to him, so it must seem completely unbelievable to the people of this world. After that, Cynthia guided him to his room and introduced him to Rissel's wife. Later, they all sat down together and enjoyed a warm meal prepared by the household staff. That night, as Tomoya rested in his room, he stared at his hands, thinking about everything that had happened. Just a short time ago, he believed he was completely powerless, but now his reality had changed in a way he never imagined. The shift felt almost unreal to him. The next morning, Rissel shared new information after meeting with the king's aide. Surprisingly, the royal court didn't argue or question anything. Instead, they chose to step back completely, leaving Tomoya's situation in the hands of the Ernirch family. Rissel mentioned that he was ready to go to the capital and personally prove that Tomoya was a true hero, but Tomoya quickly stopped him. He explained that he had no interest in risking his life to fight the Demon King or carrying the heavy responsibility of being called a hero. Rissel then asked if Tomoya at least wanted to uncover the truth behind his sudden summoning. Tomoya admitted that he was curious, but said he preferred the peace he had right now. Being ignored by the kingdom actually gave him freedom. He could live however he wanted without pressure. He decided to enjoy a simple life, exploring the world and experiencing new things at his own pace. With a respectful bow, he suggested ending the serious discussion for now. Later, with Cynthia leading the way, Tomoya made his way to the south district of Lugard. He immediately noticed that there were far more adventurers there compared to the east district. Cynthia looked around with bright, excited eyes and admitted that it was her first time visiting this area. She explained that her father had always forbidden her from coming here because of the rough behavior of some adventurers. However, this time he allowed it, trusting that she would be safe as long as Tomoya was by her side. Tomoya gave a small nod, finding it funny that Cynthia looked even more excited than he did. Then, he pointed toward a building he had been wanting to visit ever since he arrived in this world, the Adventurers Guild. When they stepped inside, they were met with a lively and energetic atmosphere, filled with people moving around and talking. The sudden buzz of activity caught both of them off guard for a moment. As Tomoya looked around, wondering if everyone there was an adventurer, Cynthia quickly noticed the reception desk. They walked over and were greeted by Ella, the guild receptionist. She politely asked if it was their first time and how she could help them. Tomoya told her that they wanted to register, and in response, Ella began explaining how the guild worked. She described the ranking system, saying that as adventurers rise in rank, they gain more benefits, but also take on greater responsibilities. She warned that high-ranking adventurers might even be forced to accept missions from the kingdom that they cannot refuse. She also explained how parties work, mentioning that a group's rank depends on its leader. In addition, both monsters and quests are ranked by difficulty, and each rank is further divided into high, mid, and low levels. According to the rules, adventurers can only accept jobs that are within one rank above or below their own level. After learning the basics, Tomoya completed the required paperwork. Next came the process of creating their status cards. Ella asked if they already had one. At that moment, Tomoya realized how serious the situation was. If he showed his true stats, it would cause a huge shock and draw too much attention. Quickly, he leaned toward Cynthia and asked for advice. Cynthia suggested using a concealment skill to hide his real abilities and display false numbers instead. She explained that only someone with a higher level appraisal skill would be able to see through it. Taking her advice, Tomoya activated the skill and carefully adjusted his visible stats, setting them at a level that would make sense for someone who had defeated the Grey Wolves the day before. Tomoya handed over his details to Ella and politely apologized for taking a bit of time. After checking everything, Ella gave him his new guild card along with his assigned rank. She then pointed him toward the bulletin board, where different quests were posted. Now officially an adventurer, Tomoya felt a rush of excitement as he walked over to the board with Cynthia. They looked through the various tasks, which included simple jobs like gathering herbs and escorting carriages. But one request instantly caught his attention, a rank mission to defeat a dragon in the southern Marginal Mountains. The idea of earning the title of Dragon Slayer thrilled him, especially when he saw that the request came from someone important. Cynthia remembered that her father had mentioned this problem before. There weren't enough strong adventurers in the area who could handle such a dangerous mission. Hearing that, Tomoya confidently said that he would take it on, but Cynthia quickly reminded him of the rules since he was only a C-rank adventurer. He wasn't allowed to accept an A-rank quest. Feeling a bit disappointed, Tomoya started thinking of another way. He asked if a B-rank party could take the mission and whether someone like him could join such a group. Cynthia admitted that it was possible, but she doubted that any B-rank adventurer would be bold or reckless enough to fight such a powerful monster while bringing along a lower-ranked teammate. Just then, a voice suddenly interrupted them, saying their conversation sounded quite interesting. The Red Knight appeared beside them, as if out of nowhere, and asked if she could join in. Tomoya recognized her immediately. She introduced herself casually as Line and brushed aside any need for formal titles. She greeted both of them by name, revealing that she had seen Tomoya defeat the Grey Wolves the day before. That small detail secretly made him happy. When Tomoya explained his situation, Line laughed, reached out, and pulled the dragon quest from the board. With a confident smile, she declared that the eccentric adventurer he was looking for was standing right in front of him. Line explained that she had been wanting to collect red dragon fangs for a long time, and this mission was the perfect chance. She then invited Tomoya to team up with her and form a party. When they brought the request to Ella, the receptionist reacted with shock, calling their decision far too dangerous. She pointed out that Tomoya was a brand new C-rank adventurer who had only just met the minimum requirements, and said he would likely struggle even against other C-rank monsters. Line found this confusing and turned to Tomoya, asking if his average stats were really around 3,000. When he confirmed it, she immediately noticed something didn't add up. A group of gray wolves wasn't considered that strong, yet Tomoya's visible stats made him seem like a low-level C-rank at best. Sensing the problem, Tomoya quietly pulled Cynthia aside and asked her about it. Cynthia apologized, admitting that while those numbers technically placed him in C-rank, she hadn't realized how big the difference in strength could be within the same rank. Tomoya started to worry about how to explain this mismatch, but Line simply laughed it off. She said she had already made her decision and didn't care too much about numbers. In her eyes, what she had personally seen mattered more than any stats. Trusting her instincts, she chose to believe in Tomoya's strength. She reached out her hand, and Tomoya, touched by her confidence in him, shook it firmly and promised to give it his all. Cynthia could only sigh, knowing that once Line decided something, there was no changing her mind. Later, back at the Ernrich mansion, Rissel listened carefully to their plan. While he didn't doubt their abilities, he reminded them that an A-rank monster was extremely dangerous. He urged them to value their lives above everything else and to prepare properly before leaving the next morning. As Line got ready to leave, she told Tomoya she would meet him at the south gate. After she left, Tomoya turned to Cynthia with one last request. Coming from a world without mana, he admitted that he didn't understand how magic worked or how to control his own power. He asked her to teach him the basics, hoping that by the next day, he would have a better grasp of his abilities. Cynthia agreed to help him, but only if he made one promise: he had to come back home safely. Tomoya smiled and gave her his word without hesitation. The next morning, Tomoya stood looking at the new sword he had bought, since he had set his visible status to that of a swordsman. Carrying it felt like the right choice. Still, the weapon felt unfamiliar at his side, and combined with his luggage, it made moving around uncomfortable. As he struggled with the weight, he found himself wishing for some kind of hidden space where he could store his things and take them out whenever he needed. To his surprise, the system reacted instantly. A new skill appeared: dimensional storage, set at an infinite level. Right in front of him, the air began to twist and ripple. Tomoya watched in shock as the space itself seemed to open. Realizing what had happened, he understood that this ability had appeared simply because he wanted an easier way to carry his belongings. Curious, he tested it. He pushed his bag toward the strange opening, and it disappeared as if it had been swallowed by nothing. Then, reaching into the warped space, he was able to pull it back out without any trouble. Tomoya couldn't hide his amazement. It seemed that whenever he truly needed something, his infinite power would create the perfect ability for the situation. This made him realize that his strength was far more flexible and useful than he had first thought. When he arrived at the gate, Line greeted him with a cheerful smile. She quickly noticed how lightly he was traveling and seemed surprised. When Tomoya explained that he was using a storage skill, her reaction changed to pure shock. She mentioned that such abilities were extremely rare, and then, seeing an opportunity, asked if he could carry her belongings as well. Tomoya hesitated, pointing out that her bag likely held important things like money and personal items, but Line simply laughed it off and said she trusted him completely, insisting there was no way he would steal from her. Tomoya let out a small sigh, realizing that Line was even more carefree and trusting than he had first imagined. Tomoya felt a small sense of guilt inside him. Line was trusting him completely, yet he was still hiding the truth about his real power. As they talked, Line pointed at his new sword and noticed how clean it was, without a single scratch or mark. She questioned whether it was a good idea to fight an A-rank monster using a weapon he clearly wasn't used to, especially since she had already seen him defeat a gray wolf with his bare hands. Tomoya quietly blamed himself for not thinking it through. From her point of view, he probably looked like an inexperienced fighter bringing a brand new weapon into a dangerous battle. He expected her to lose confidence in him, but instead, Line suddenly laughed out loud. She said that his strange and unpredictable nature was exactly why she wanted him on her team. She was curious to see how someone like him would fight. Hearing that, Tomoya felt something shift inside him. Without saying it out loud, he made a firm decision: no matter what happened, he would protect her, even if it meant revealing his true power. When Tomoya asked how they would travel, Line casually said they would be riding the same horse. As they began their journey, with Line leading, the constant movement made it hard for Tomoya to keep his balance. Noticing this, Line told him he wasn't holding on properly, and guided his hands to wrap around her waist. Tomoya's face instantly turned red. He became very aware of how close they were. Since she wasn't wearing armor around her waist, he could feel how soft she was, which only made him more nervous. It was a kind of closeness he had never experienced before, and strangely, it made him more anxious than the thought of fighting monsters. Their ride didn't stay peaceful for long. A group of black wolves suddenly suddenly appeared, each one as large as a lion. These were B-rank monsters. As Tomoya wondered if they should get off the horse, Lion acted first. Without slowing down, she struck the lead wolf with a smooth, powerful swing, cutting it down instantly. With confidence, she said she was feeling great today and told Tomoya to collect the valuable fur using his dimensional storage. As one of the remaining wolves growled and prepared to attack, Tomoya stepped forward and asked Line to let him handle it. He wanted to see how well he could fight using a sword against a B-rank enemy. Quietly, he adjusted his stats, raising his attack and speed to 6,000 so he could match the monster's level. He quickly noticed that this black wolf was much faster than the gray wolves he had faced before. Still, with his boosted reflexes, he was able to keep up with its movements. He swung his sword and struck the wolf's head, feeling the increased strength behind his attack. Then, he remembered something Cynthia had taught him the night before. She had explained that magic attack wasn't only for casting spells, it could also be used to enhance a weapon by covering it in mana. Following her advice, Tomoya poured his magic power into his blade. With one powerful swing, he cut clean through the wolf, finishing it instantly. Line watched everything with a thoughtful look on her face. After a moment, she spoke honestly. She said that while she didn't mean to be rude, the way he just fought didn't match the stats he had shown at the guild, it simply didn't add up. Tomoya froze for a second, feeling like a kid who had just been caught doing something wrong. He silently hoped she wouldn't ask any more questions about it. Before continuing their journey, it's worth mentioning three of Tomoya's other classmates, Miho Sakura, Riko Funabashi, and Yui Yanagi, who had also been summoned into this world. After traveling for a while longer, Tomoya and Line managed to hunt a mid-level flying rabbit. They used it to prepare a warm meal of rabbit and vegetable stew. As she ate, Line hummed happily, saying she never expected to enjoy such delicious food while out on a rough journey. Tomoya smiled and said he was glad he had thought ahead and borrowed cooking tools, mentioning that he was used to cooking for himself back in his old world. Line laughed and said that his cooking skills alone made him a great partner, but Tomoya jokingly told her not to judge his value based only on his cooking. After they finished eating, Tomoya brought up the technique Line had used earlier, the one she called Sky Slash. Curious about how it worked, he asked her to explain it. Line told him that it was an advanced move that combined multiple skills, and to help him understand better, she handed him her status card. Looking at it, Tomoya saw that she was a level 36 swordsman and a B-rank adventurer. Her stats were incredibly high, with strong attack, defense, speed, and magic abilities across the board. Line then explained that Sky Slash was created by combining her level 5 swordsmanship with level 4 spatial magic. By bending space itself, she could strike enemies from a distance as if they were right in front of her. Impressed, Tomoya thanked her and decided to show his own card in return. Using his dimensional storage, he pulled it out, but before handing it over, he quietly adjusted his fake stats again. This time, he added a skill called interdimensional storage at level 3 to make things seem more believable. Line accepted the card and thanked him for being open with her. After that, she suggested they clean up and get some rest, reminding him that they needed to reach a lodging area near the mountain by morning. As night fell and they prepared to sleep in the forest, Tomoya started to feel a bit uneasy when he realized there was only one tent. He pointed out that it might not be enough for both of them. Line didn't see any problem and casually suggested they just sleep next to each other. Tomoya tried to argue, feeling awkward about the situation, but Line misunderstood him. She thought he was worried about monsters attacking during the night and confidently assured him that she would sense any danger right away. Tomoya clarified that wasn't what he meant, but seeing that she truly didn't mind, he forced himself to accept it. Sitting inside the tent, he tried hard to calm his thoughts and not overthink the situation. He couldn't help but wonder how she could be so relaxed sharing such a close space with him. Eventually, he fell asleep. When he woke up later, Line was gone. Stepping outside into the dim light before sunrise, he noticed a faint glow in the distance. Curious, he followed it toward a nearby lake, and there, to his shock, he found Line bathing in the water. Tomoya quickly jumped behind a tree, his heart racing. He was terrified that if Line caught him there, she might lose the trust she had placed in him. But his hiding didn't last long. Line instantly sensed that someone was nearby. In one swift motion, she drew her sword and swung it, cutting down a group of trees in a single strike. When she realized it was Tomoya, she relaxed and lowered her weapon, giving him a gentle smile as she asked if he was hurt. Feeling both relieved and extremely embarrassed, Tomoya said he was fine. He explained that he had woken up and noticed she was gone, so he came looking for her. He awkwardly admitted that he was worried she might think he was spying on her.